Hello, hi, this is David Banner, and I'd like to tell you all about Urban Temple Wellness. They invite you to enjoy a healing experience in the heart of Midtown Atlanta. Let the healing hands of the Lotus Queen balance and restore mind, body, and soul in a safe and healthy environment. Custom massage therapy treatments will boost immune health and create a sense of overall well-being. Visit the Urban Temple's website at www.urbantemplewellness.com. That's URBANTEMPLEWELLNESS.com to schedule your next moment of peace and well-being on Earth. This is David Banner, and I'd like to tell you all, enjoy. Peace. If you're sick of bullshit TV that's always showing our people in a negative light, if you're looking for information that's simple and entertaining instead of boring, check out Business Bully TV. Business Bully TV has amazing programming, from celebrity interviews, documentaries, and movie reviews. You can watch exclusive programming that you can't get anywhere else from today's power players. Business Bully TV is available for free on Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and streaming 24/7 and on demand at businessbully.tv. Once again, this is David Banner from the David Banner Podcast.
David Banner.
What's happening, y'all? This is a special edition of the David Banner Podcast. This is Tommy Nova's Corner, where Tommy Nova is going to get up close and personal. And just so y'all know, Tommy Nova does all of the, what would you call this, videography? All the visuals for the David Banner Podcast. I met him on the set of a couple of videos. You know, just young, hard-working cat. And I never forget, always listen. Because being that I'm an actor, so I get to see what happens in big blockbuster movies, and then I get to see what happens on all the videos that I've been a part of during my career and all my features and all that kind of stuff. So I see things from about 6, 7 different angles. And I noticed how every time I told Tommy something, he'd be like, bet. But some people do that and then don't do what you say. You know what I'm saying? But I noticed that not only did he take my suggestions, but then he would take them to the next level. You know, and when we, started the podcast, and we had, great people shooting the podcast. Oh my God, I've loved everybody that's been a part of the podcast, but I just wanted a team that was a part of the Banner vision. People that I knew, people that, I don't have to necessarily worry about my hard drives, even though I'm still worried about it, Tommy, just so you know. Somebody who was a part of my team. And I brought Tommy in. And just so y'all know, Tommy is one of the most fierce lyricists on this planet. And he only started dealing with cameras. Seemingly the only reason why I started doing beats was because I couldn't afford to buy beats. And then when I could, people didn't give me the quality of beats that I wanted. It was the same thing with him shooting videos for his career. And I just saw how dope he was, and I asked him if he ever shot a podcast before. And he was like, no, but I'm game. So the first couple podcasts he shot, this is when I knew that I wanted him to be a part of what, that I'm doing. And like Salih, like Scott, like Karan, like Regina, like everybody that's around me, they didn't need me. They were going to be exactly who they were going to be. But maybe I can help speed the process up. And if not speed the process up, I could give them a certain level of knowledge at this point that it would maybe take them 10, 20 years to acquire. Because I always tell people, if you're doing the same thing that I'm doing when you're my age, then our relationship meant nothing. So Tommy, just dope. And this is the first Tommy Nova's Corner, or Tommy's Corner, with David Banner.
What are some of the things that help mold your characteristics back in Mississippi?
It was my father, Zeno Crump. My dad was hard, man. My dad was in one of the first groups of firemen in Mississippi or in Jackson, Mississippi. So you can imagine him having to spend the night with some of them folk and then some of the stuff that my dad went through. And my dad was really military minded to not be in the military. He ran his house. He ran our lives like it was the military. You know, he was really strict. And to be honest with you, most of my life, I didn't like my father. People think I'm joking about this, Tommy. Me and my dad, I really think only had about 6 hours worth of conversation up until the age of about 24, outside of him reprimanding me. But I can honestly say, not from a talent perspective, but from a moral perspective, from a work perspective, I'm my dad. And I got him tattooed. It's funny, I tell people this all the time. I got him tattooed on my arm, and I've never said his name in front of him. And we didn't do that in Mississippi. You don't call grown folks by their first name. You know what I'm saying? But I would say one of the main things that made me who I am, my dad was, now that I'm older, I can say he was the most strict, mean, nice guy you would ever meet. So I would always talk about how mean my dad was, but me and my cousin Sweets, we realized that when I was recording the Firewater Boys, we recorded most of that album in my house in the Queens in Jackson, Mississippi. And what happened was that people don't know, when people who hear that I'm a semester and a thesis away from my master's degree and how well I did in college, people think I went back to college for some reason after I was a rapper. All my education, formal education, came before my independent album. So what ended, except the Crooked Letters, I was still at Southern when we recorded that. But my dad, he let us have his house. No lie, Tommy, it was over 3,000 records all over the fucking front room. My dad had basically gave us the house. He would come from being a fireman, seeing death in people's bodies. Because what people don't understand, firemen get there before the ambulance, before the police. A lot of times he would tell me, like, if somebody got shot, the person that shot him is still there a lot of times when they show up. So my daddy would have to come home to that and all these fucking records, all these people in the house, microphones, ASR 10. And one day he said, son, are you done with that album you working on? And I was like, yes, sir. He said, you got 2 months. You gotta get out of my house. I was like, yeah, okay. I thought it was bullshit. 2 months, I mean, on the dime. I was sitting in there, me and my cousin or whatever. He said, come here. Walk outside with me. I walked outside with him. Hey, what's up, Dad? He said, it's time for you to go. He kicked me out the house. My grind turned into something else. It's a difference when you're selling your CDs on the corner and you got a place to stay that you don't pay for, you and your mom and your dad's house or whatever. But when I had to sell that CD in order to eat, I never forget, this is something I've never said nowhere else. I never forget I had to go and stay with my ex-girlfriend, right? We wasn't dating no more, but we were still cool. So I was staying with her, hearing other men coming in and out of the house while I was because my dad had kicked me out of the house. So I stayed with her for about 2 weeks, and then I got on my shit. And I was selling so many CDs that I stayed out in the rich part of town. Like I went from not having anything, sleeping on her couch, living out on the rich part of town. It was funny because I was so big at the time. A lot of times I would press up on people because I realized that they were afraid. So they would give me 10 CDs was $10. Sometimes they would give me $20, $30, $40 just so that big motherfucker get the fuck away from him. But my dad, as painful as it was that he threw me out of the house, when he threw me out of the house, that's what made me become the David Banner that you see. Like, you know, I actually saw when you was teasing somebody one time, just because of how aggressive I am. Like, we don't have room for mistakes in the South. We don't have rooms for makeovers because I believe I'm a time bender. You know, if you think about all the shit that I've done, my dad even told me that before he died. He said, son, go a little bit lighter on yourself. It was crazy hearing him say this as hard as he worked. He said, you have accomplished more than 8 generations of Black people. Like, go light on yourself. But he was the one that gave me that work ethic.
Talk a little bit about your transition from Mississippi to Atlanta.
Well, what happened when I was staying in Mississippi, people don't know this. I never competed locally. Because there's so much talent in Mississippi. Like, if you even look at the artists who have come out of Mississippi so far, you know, on a certain level, you know, you look at the Big Crits, you look at the David Banners, the Tito Lopez's, the Ray Shrumers, you know, some of the greatest, you know, blues singers, some of the greatest businessmen, some of the greatest people, talents, period, have come from out of Mississippi. It's such a vibrant scene, but we have to combat the past. You know, we still combating the way that people felt about Mississippi in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know what I'm saying? But I just realized that it was important for me to travel. And I gotta be honest with you, man. I found out that my biological father, because Zeno Crump, who I talk about, a lot of people don't know he's not my biological father. He raised me since I was 3 or 4. And she won't say this, and I never say this on camera, but I really believe my mom married my dad. And this may be ego-driven for me, but she knew her son needed a man in his life. And I don't think that there's, like, God don't make no mistakes, man. Like, I needed my biological father because I found out my biological father played 11 instruments. And with the exception of the drums, I've never been classically trained in any instrument. And, you know, I've done, I think it's close to 80 major groups, production-wise. People don't know how wide my my discography is, you know, and my traveling, I realized that I had to travel. And my beats took me, bro, like from Dallas to Houston, all through Alabama, Tennessee. I would go, you know, to Oklahoma and work with Metal Net Up in Tulsa. Shout out to Bird, all through Florida. I remember, you know, when I used to work with Trick Daddy and Slip and Slide, man, me and Rick Ross would be in the back of the room talking, you know, talking about our dreams about getting on. Like, I never forget. That's who, a lot of times when I would go down and Slip and Slide and talk, because they didn't really know who I was as a producer, because David Banner wasn't David Banner at the time. When I did Thug Holiday, I was in Thug Holiday video and I produced the song and people didn't know that I was in the video because they didn't know who David Banner was. But like traveling, and then I went to Atlanta, man. I'll say this, and I mean this with all my heart, man. I owe Atlanta. I think most of the people who live in Atlanta owe oh, Atlanta, because I've been all over the world. I've been to the motherland, bro. I haven't felt the way that I feel in Atlanta. You know, you could have gave me $1 billion and I would have not known what to do with it. Atlanta showed me what Black excellence really looks like.
I've heard you talk about the infamous red van on several occasions. Tell us about the significance and the symbolism of the van and what it means to you now.
All right, so people say it was a red van, so I sort of let that go. It's actually a maroon van, but we'll say the red van just so it can fall in line. The red van was my home when I was homeless. I built a studio in the van. It was stolen. And it's funny because I always quote Big Gip, like it felt like somebody ran their fingers in my drawers. I'm the type of person, like when somebody break into something that I own or invade something that I own, I don't want it no more. You know, that can be human or or otherwise. But it's funny, man, when they broke into my van, I never really think I may drove that van about 8 more times. That was my home. That's what I slept in. And then, you know, I never talked about this before then. About 4 months, I say about 5 years ago, somebody stole it from my cousin's house because I was going to put it in the museum. And then come to find out that I got a word from somebody that they wanted to apologize. I don't really want to hear that shit now. But the van, to me, that represented that Mississippi hustle. It ain't no excuses. And Tommy, you know me now. You know, us building our own movie company, us having our own office, us, you know, I said it, and I know you get tired of me hearing me say this, but now, and we could put a timestamp on this. I'm gonna stop saying white supremacy. I'm not gonna say white supremacy anymore. I'm gonna say white insecurity because they are not supreme. So y'all put the stamp on that because I see people take my stuff all the time and I don't mind as long as we do our thing. But this white insecurity, it shows me what we need to own. And that's what the van did for me. You know, I built a studio in my van. So it was my workplace. For a while, it was my home. You know, if you go back and listen to Mississippi, the album, the interludes, I recorded most of them in the van. You can literally hear cars passing by. And ain't it crazy that we in my office now and you can hear the cars passing by? That's just God showing you, man, just the levels. If you believe and you continue working. So now we on Peachtree in Atlanta, over the city, and cars are passing by in another way. You know what I'm saying? But that's what that van meant, is that Mississippi work ethic.
When you were in the van, did you ever doubt that you become the star that you are today?
I'll say this. A story that they talked about with Jesus, when the people were walking on water and they started to doubt, then that's when they started falling into the water. Sometimes I doubt myself now. I don't smoke much. I don't do drugs much, but sometimes I dabble, especially when I'm recording. And I'm recording the God Box 2 right now, so I'm dabbling a little bit. And I ate an edible. And I got so high that I had an out-of-body experience. In that out-of-body experience, I got a chance to see myself outside of myself. It was crazy. And I was looking at the stuff that I'm doing. And regardless of whether we admit it or not, we history. And I think part of the problem, I think that maybe Malcolm and Martin would be alive if they really knew who they were. And when I had that out-of-body experience, I had the opportunity to see the work that I'm doing. And it scared me a little bit. My bravery, my ability to not give a fuck. I don't see that because I'm inside of me. You know, I always wonder why people look at me the way that they do and why they applaud me. That's what the fuck men's supposed to do. And that's one of the things that scare me. Me and one of my best friends, Edward Muhammad, we were talking about how even our own people, it seems like they hunt strong black men. It's almost like we the enemy now. You know, the traditional family is people are at war with it, you know. And when I was tripping out, and I was like, damn, dude, like, you doing this shit. And it just, to a certain degree, man, cause I don't get afraid much. You know, I do get afraid, and I do have doubts sometimes, but, you know, whether it was then or now, yeah, I feel those feelings. And God put those feelings in us for a reason. You know, when people say that they never scared, then you're not human. Fear is in you for a reason, but they said you are not to have a spirit of fear. You need to know when fear around you or you're a fucking fool. But what I started doing is taking fear and doubt, running towards it. I said on a new video that you directed, you know, I run towards conflict. You feel me? And it was funny even saying that. Cam told me, he's like, bro, we had the same spirit, and you and I converse and seek rest in confusion. When everybody else is scared and running away, that lets me know that my vision is big enough. Will Smith said, if your dream doesn't scare you, then it's not big enough. So yeah, I still have doubts now. Shit, I was doubting 2 days ago, but I got my ass up and came and sit in this office. You know what I'm saying?
Talk to us about Rubberband Man and how that record became one of the many huge staples in your career.
Rubberband Man, Tip, from the beginning. First of all, me and Tip had a strange ass connection. Like our careers have been interwoven in some kind of way. And it's funny because now that I look at our friendship now, I would actually say that I would actually say now that I understand what our friendship is now, I would say that we were more associates then. I thought we was friends then, but now that I see what our friendship really looks like, we've always been interwoven, but I think now it's a true friendship. I think we both were very driven people, and I haven't seen confidence like Tip has. You know, Tip has always seen himself. You remember I told you earlier how some people, I don't think Malcolm and Martin saw themselves and saw who they were. Tip has always seen who he was, bro. You know, and Tip has always been clear about his path. That's the reason why he's so successful. And he's never gave a fuck, period. And there's a sense, I told him this recently, and I think he was surprised. Tip was one of the people who showed me about class. Tip always had a problem with the way that people looked at Southerners. That's the reason why Tip never really did the crunk music. And that's the reason why Tip never really jumped around and shit in videos like that and shit. Tip always felt like he really took that king shit seriously. And if you notice, I slowly withdrew myself and realized I think he's right. Like, it's cool, there's nothing wrong with it. But like, if I say that we are gods and that we kings, we have to hold ourselves a little bit different than the average person. And I started realizing that no matter how much money you make, whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's David Banner, whether it's the local rapper in your town, if you say you're a rapper, you entertainment for rich people or people who are willing to pay. And fuck how big you are. And I actually started having a problem with that. I ain't nobody's entertainment, or at least I don't want to be. I want to do music because it's dope and we have a connection, but I don't want to be your entertainment no more. You know what I'm saying? I want to teach. I want to inspire, but that's why I don't even perform that much no more. Because I'm tired of being an object. I think I'm a creator, and I create and I deal with it. And if you deem me worthy, you'll call me out of hiding. But running after people to entertain them, I think my purpose on this earth is a lot bigger than that. But Rubberband Man, Tip helped me realize that. And people always ask me, like, man, damn, Rubberband Man was this. If I would have knew that, that beat would have came out after Like a Pimp. I really have to give Tip credit because he saw that. And people don't really remember Tip had a record deal and he put out an album. It didn't do well. He asked them, if I'm correct, he asked them to let him go. He went back to the streets. And, up until I'll say about 8, 9 years ago, Tip took care of about 20, 30 folk. Like, I knew how tired I was taking care of 8 folk. Tip took care of 30 people. And he came to me and was like, Banner, like, man, I got to take care of a lot of people, bro. He's like, I know how much you get paid for beats now. Because at that time, I was getting paid about $5,000 a beat. That's when I just, Thug Holiday had blew up. I had a little name for myself. And he was like, man, I give you $2,500. He said, but if you give me this beat, I'm going to help change your life. And Rubberband Man was the reason why I was able to charge people $30,000, $40,000 a beat. You feel me? Tip was the reason why I believe, you do your own research, that Tip is the reason why we were able to keep our tags on the front of our beats because radio stations was taking them off. Tip called up the Hyatt and said, don't mess with my music. That boy work hard, leave the music like we sent it to you. And now, whether that's the reason why or not, I know he did that. He may not even remember doing that. So from the beginning, we recorded that beat in I think it was Mac Boney's auntie's beauty salon. We did Rubberband Man in the bathroom. And it was this Richard Pryor beat, man. KP is one of the executive producers of the first God Box, man, and really good friend of mine. There was another beat that went along with that. Had Richard Pryor. When we did Rubberband Man, we did this beat with Richard Pryor on the hook, man. And KP didn't like it, so it didn't make it. But it was another song along with Rubberband Man that I thought was just as dope, but it didn't end up making it. But another thing too was, and I think what really made the song was the kids. Tip put the kids on there. I didn't do that. People give me credit for that. Tip did that. I have this thing that I don't like mixing children with grown-up themes. That's just something that's hard for me to do. And even when people thought I used kids, it was actually grown-ups. Because like when I did La La for Wayne, I asked her to sound like a child, but that was a grown lady. Matter of fact, a grown lady with two kids. I never really liked mixing kids' spirits with grown-up things. But that touch, that tip put on there, to me, is what made it a hit record. It was them kids. I think that Rubberband Man did for hip-hop what Woo-Ha did for East Coast music or New York music, because our music was so depressing. It was just such a depressed time. It was so dark, so violent. And Rubberband Man came through and had the major tones, that cut through, and it was happy. And to this day, I've been telling people, and people won't listen to me. People want to be happy even if they don't know it. If you look at Happy Feelings, Happy Feelings, you know what I'm saying? To this day, I don't care where you go to, people will line up to hear them sing Happy Feelings. You look at Timbaland, Pharrell, with the exception of maybe grinding, and those was only drums. You never really heard a depressing Pharrell beat. You never really heard a depressing Timbaland beat. And they two of the biggest producers on this planet. People want to be happy. And the problem is that black people just don't trust you. But people trusted Tip, and I hope they trusted me. And if you look at all the records that have ever been successful for me, they made people feel good. And Rubberband Man definitely did that.
What is it about production specifically that you seem to have such an affinity for?
One thing that people don't know is I actually prefer creating beats in headphones. Because and one of the reasons why I actually damaged my right ear is because at my house, I have two studio speakers, and I sit in the middle of the studio speakers and turn them up really loud. And my head is inside of the speakers because that's the closest that I can get to headphones. I create worlds in my beats. Music has always been a way for escapism for me. Like, people would always tease me, like when my friends were, even though I listened to UGK, Scarface, 3 6 Mafia, 8 Ball and the MJG, Tila, it goes on and on and on. Hip hop was always my escapism until hip hop became elitist. When hip hop was pure and for everybody, that was what I would escape into. So I was listening to not along with the stuff that I was listening to in the South. I was listening to Diamond D. I was listening to Beat Nuts. I was listening to Souls of Mischief, Hobo Junction. Um, you know, Words of Wisdom by Third Base, Lyrics of Fury by Rakim, Tila Rock, Mantronics. I remember in Jackson, Mississippi, I used to ride up to the clubs. Everybody thought I was crazy. I would do stuff like put on The Price is Right. I would go get theme music, and when everybody else was bumping, loud 808 stuff, I would roll up to the club bumping The Price is Right. Ba, 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 da, da, ba, 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 ba. Always, like, where we from, Jackson, Mississippi is one of the most violent places in the United States. And when I was young, I could never understand why I would want to trap myself in what I already live in. I don't need to talk about crack. I don't need to talk about violence all the time if I live in it. You know what I mean? So the early part of my career when I was in Crooked Letters, people would always be like, bro, why don't you rap about the shit that you live? Like, you rapping this hip hop shit. And then I realized how people didn't give a fuck about the South. And then I started talking about the shit that was around me. And that's when my career took off. But my production was always escapism. Even now, I don't give a fuck how people, I know what people would, I give you one example that people would never ever make this connection. I called it, I don't know what they call it. I think they call it like phantom drums. But if you would listen to Pete Rock, you would listen to Q-Tip, and I forgot the name of it. It was a white rock group. It's just a drum break. And guess who did? You're going to be mad at me for not calling the drum break out. I'm not as good at with memorizing the records, but the they use it on Electric Relaxation on Tribe Called Quest. I always like when Pete Rock and them would do them kind of beats, the stuttering beats. And so when I did Stunting as a Habit, you go back and listen to that, Stunting is a and I put Southern drums on it. Nobody would have ever thought that that was influenced by hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And the dexterity of music that I actually had. I never forget Pharrell hearing like a lot of the music that I had in my laptop, and he was like, "What the fuck?" But then he said something that was so powerful. He said, "David, how can you expect other people to rap over these kind of beats and you don't?" He said, "I know it's a little bit easier for me because I can sing." He said, "So I would kid up the song. The song would already be done, and all the rappers had to do is get in between it. So it's easy for me, but you're going to have to start playing the same type of music, or you're going to have to start rapping over the same type of music that you got in your laptop." And then, you know, that's when I started moving towards that, and life sort of pushed me that way. But production has always been a way of escape for me.
What is your favorite body of work that you've created and why?
That's like you asking me if I had all little girls, and you ask me which one of my daughters I like the most. Well, all of them are an experience of my life. All of them were periods that I had in my life, and some of them may sound better, but without those building blocks of the other daughters, and those other daughters, if you think about it as a mother or a father, your first child is always an experiment. You fuck up, and then you get older and you get wiser. And then some people, by the time you have your grandchildren or you have your last daughter, then they be like, "Damn, like, why you ain't do me like that?" Well, because I didn't understand. So for me to pick any group of work, what I will say though, there's a group of work that most people don't know about, and I think people missed. I did a mixtape when I was going through my worst depression in LA. It's called Sex, Drugs, and Video Games. It's very hard to find because I got sued. And I like to tell you about that really quick because I've never told this story anywhere. So there's this producer named M Phases. He's out of Australia. A really, really dope producer. I found him through fucking with Ninth Wonder. And he gave me this beat. And Primo actually used a sample too, but I didn't think it had a sample in it because he added extra live instruments. So I thought all of it was live instruments, right? So I ended up putting out this mixtape called Sex, Drugs, and Video Games. And Sex, Drugs, and Video Games was actually influenced by Andre 3000 because Andre 3000 is my favorite rapper. But when he was in Outkast, I didn't think it was fair for him to choose to change up his style without giving us fans one more record. So even though I am more conscious, I still want one record from the old Andre 3000. Now, as a matter of fact, John Fry, who ran Stankonia, who used to run Stankonia, is the person who mixed most of the God Box, the first one. So I was going to try to ask them if I could pay Outkast to go in and get one of them reels and give me a verse from the old Andre 3000 and I make a beat around it, just so I could get at to the world the same way that I wanted. So I said that, when I really started becoming outwardly conscious, and I said I didn't want to make the same type of music again, I didn't want my fans to say he switched up on us without giving us a farewell. So I took all the music that people hadn't heard besides one song. I had this song called Gas that I had sampled 2 Chainz. A verse that 2 Chainz had done that was actually on. It went, I be pumping pussy like gas, nigga, yeah. And what's funny is that song ended up becoming Elvis on the God Box. But the original way that I did that song was 2 Chainz saying, I be pumping pussy like gas, nigga, yeah. Bro, the song was so, I'm gonna let you hear it when we get out. Bro, that song was so fucking hard. If I would have put that song out, I would have still been doing Like a Pimp music right now. That song was so fucking hard. And I didn't put the song out because I knew if it was successful, then I would keep going down that path. So I never did that song. Anyway, but besides that song, I had 2 Chris Brown songs. I had so many people on this record. During this time, the only people that I didn't have on this record was Rick Ross and Nicki Minaj and Drake. Just about everybody else that you could think of from fucking A$AP Rocky. They just go it's Lil Wayne. I had 2 songs with Lil Wayne on it. Just everybody that I had produced for, everybody that I fucked with was on this record. And I just gave all that music on that mixtape. Then, watch this. I shouldn't have done this, but I erased my whole computer. All the music, just to make sure that I burned that bridge and would never go back to that kind of music again. I erased everything that was on that computer, I erased it. I erased all the hard drives and said I would never go back to doing that kind of music again. I think that mixtape was one of my most complete bodies of work. Bun B, it was just so many people on that mixtape. But I just think Sex, Drugs, and Video Games was the precursor to what the God Box was going to become. I'll tell you another record that people don't know about. The original version of Death of a Pop Star, the album that me and Ninth Wonder did, with all the Ninth Wonder samples. Like, as an independent artist, what people don't understand, people all say you should do this or you should do that, but they don't know how much I have to pay for all that shit. So I spent $100,000 of my own money to do the Ninth Wonder album, and then got sued on that album too for a sample. And that's like when I tell hip hop producers, they be like, man, put this shit out. Well, it's easy for you to say that because people not gonna sue you. People look at my big songs and my big hits and they look at me as a lick and they'll sue me for some shit that you did.